The Tennis Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gam Podcast Network is brought to you by Nug Fantasy. Their company customers play just $5, send $5 bonus funds when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. And welcome everyone to the Tennis Gam Podcast here on the Sports Gam Podcast Network. Currently Thursday afternoon, January 8th around 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm always Reichel once again going solo for this pod. Time to get into the quarterfinal matches in Brisbane and in Hong Kong and break down those 8 matches in a few minutes. Before we get into the actual breakdown of those matches and the recap of what happened for the last episode, a reminder, support the show by liking and subscribing on YouTube. And a reminder, you can also find the podcast on Spotify or Apple audio format only. That's fine too. But once again, SGPN Tennis Game Podcast on YouTube and SGPN Tennis Game Podcast on Spotify or Apple. When you check them out on either actual platform, leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple, and like, subscribe to help the YouTube channel grow. Plus, a reminder, check the merch store on the SGPN website. We have a lot of great tennis merch. We have sweatshirts, we have t-shirts, we have mugs, different colors, very affordable. Think you like the options that we have for you. Plus, a reminder as well, that if you want to find easy access to all of our free picks and podcasts, go to the SGPN app, free to download in the App Store. So once again, completely free. Just type in SGPN in the App Store to get access to all of our free picks and podcasts for the entire network. So moving on to the recap of what happened last episode. For the lock and dog, we crushed it. A nice sweep for us. For the lock, we Kovacevic money line at -152. Never in doubt, Kyrgios is totally washed. He can't move. And Kovacevic buried him. I believe he did not face a break point in the entire match. Kyrgios can't really play singles at this point, so he should be retiring in the near future. I will blindly fade him every time he plays because he cannot move, and as a result, he cannot win singles matches. But nice win for us, never in doubt there. For the dog, nice win as well, never in doubt too. We had the Paul and Perricard first set over, 10.5 games plus 108, standard Perricard play. In fact, Perricard did not break Paul in the entire match, and he ended up winning. But either way, first I went to a breaker. Never in doubt there. Nice and easy lock and dog sweep. Now, getting into the actual news that is worth talking about around the tennis landscape, Djokovic was supposed to be playing in Adelaide in Aussie Open tune-up tournament. He withdrew, said physically he's not ready to actually compete yet. Does it mean anything? Not really. Djokovic, at the end of the day, we know is only concerned about Grand Slams, and you have to expect him to do whatever he can to make sure that he's healthy for the Aussie Open. But Joker's been, I'd say, going into majors recently cold turkey, and it's been working out pretty well for him. So not going to read too much into it, but according to him, he's not fully ready to compete yet. So we'll see how he looks in a couple weeks for the Aussie Open. But for Adelaide, he will not be there. So once again, something to keep in mind. Was a bit surprised. He initially scheduled to be playing in Adelaide, and it turns out it was short-lived because he decided that he wasn't ready, and as a result, he's going to take the extra couple of weeks off. Anyway, moving on to the recap of what happened in the round of 16, starting off in Brisbane. So Medvedev's looked great. Beat Tiafoe handily in the round of 16. You saw Opelka lose to Majcik in 3. All breakers, 0 breaks in the entire match. Opelka had 3 match points, 1 in the second set, 2 in the third, choked them all away, and Majcik eventually did get the job done there in the third set breaker. Nice upset win for the lucky loser as he now heads to the quarters. Alheshka, defending champion, got injured, which has been a common theme in his career as Korda ended up advancing via retirement. Mickelson buried Tien. Great showing by Mickelson. He played a phenomenal match, and he was able to coast from start to finish. Kovacevic kept it rolling as he was able to beat Norrie. Norrie had the nice comeback win against Humbert, and then immediately lost to Kovacevic in 3. So a nice win there for the American. Besides that, Perricard, like the first round, beat an opponent despite not breaking in the entire match. Perricard beat Hijikata in a final set breaker. Lost the first set, actually. They came back and won the next 2 in tie breaks, but nice win for him. Dimitrov, in his comeback tournament, looked okay in the first. It looked good in the first match. And then after that, he kind of got destroyed by Calignon. A nice win there for the young Belgian. And last but not least, you have Nagashima, who's been very good, beating Hallis in straight sets. Really never in doubt there. So once again, not too much drama. Couple of 3-setters. You had a couple of 3-set tie breaks, but usual suspects with Opelka and with Perricard being involved. But either way, once again, decent balance there between the competitive and lopsided matches in the round of 16. So, looking at Hong Kong, you have Musetti, who beat Echeverry in 3, lost the first set, came back and won. Wang lost the first set handily, then came back and he ended up upsetting Diallo in 3. Nice win for him. Rublev was really bad early against Yibing, and then he went God mode in the final 2 sets, and he won comfortably in 3 sets. Borges, nice win against Cilic, won in straight sets. Cilic dominated against Manarino, and apparently the success was short-lived because Borges was pretty comfortable for most of the match. A nice win for him. Defending champion Mueller is out as he lost to Giron in straight sets. Kashanov ended up losing in 2 tie breaks to Momo. You saw Shang beat Sonigo. Nice win for him. And Bublik beat Dzanchel comfortably. Bublik still looks very good. And it looks like early on, we're only 1 match in. It looks like the Bublik that we saw in 2025 might be carrying over into 2026. But you had a couple of comeback wins. A couple of guys lost the first set, came back and won. But the last 5 matches of the round of 16 in Hong Kong were straight sets. So really not too much drama there. Besides that, nothing else to really add for the United Cup recap there. Fritz was not playing pretty well. He ended up struggling throughout the entire event. Who's looked really good? Hurkacz. Hurkacz looks very, very good, which is nice to see, and hopefully stays healthy. We know Hurkacz, when healthy, is a fringe top 10 guy, and he definitely looks the part. He's been very good, beats Zverev in straight sets, beat Griekspoor in straight sets. Keep an eye out for Hurkacz. He looks really good. So if he ends up making a decent run in the Aussie Open, or even beyond that, I wouldn't be shocked. But health has been a concern for Hurkacz recently, but the talent's undeniable. We know that the serve's very good. He's very tough to break, and he can definitely give anybody a hard time on any given day. Keep an eye out for Hurkacz. He's looked very good throughout the entire United Cup. Anyway, nothing else to really add. We have a bunch of matches to get into. So before we get into the actual breakdown of those quarterfinal matchups, a reminder, they're brought to you by our sponsor, Kalshi. So if you like real money prediction markets available in every single state, check out Kalshi. Trade tons of markets in sports, including the NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, NHL, and more. Plus, you can also trade props like first touchdowns. Besides sports, they also let you look at markets for politics, entertainment, and even the weather. And if you are new to Kalshi, capitalize on the great sign-up deal that we have with them. So new Kalshi customers get $20 if they use the code SGPN at sign-up. That's Kalshi, Kalshi, promo code SGPN for a free $20 at sign-up. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. If you like pick 'em entries, chance to win 5,000 times your entry, pick higher or lower on different player stats, including tennis, so keep an eye out for that too. Underdog has you covered for the holiday season, though, with Underdog Unwrapped. Unwrapped tons of promos all throughout the holidays, and a reminder that they have a brand new offer for new customers. Play just $5, $75 bonus funds when you sign up with the promo code SGPN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Cam Podcast. Finished going through the recap of the round of 16. Time to go on into the preview of the quarterfinal matches. So starting off in Brisbane, we're going to start off with Kovacevic taking on Perricard. Perricard's a favorite, about minus 160. You have Kovacevic at around plus 130 for the spread, minus 1.5 for Perricard, and the plus 1.5 for Kovacevic is a bit juiced at minus 125, but he's still the dog. And the over-under is between 25.5 games and 26.5 games. Now, Kovacevic has been very good in the event, beat Norrie, and he only got broken 1 time in 3 sets. And we know that Norrie, once again, is a good returner. Kovacevic, though, had 21 aces in that match, so he's serving pretty well. Perricard, we know, serves bombs. I believe he had 29 aces against Hichikata, did not break in the entire match in that one or in the Paul match, and it hasn't mattered because he won both third sets in a breaker. The point is, though, the question is, do I think Perricard should be minus 160? I'm going to say no. I think that at the end of the day, Kovacevic has shown that he's definitely looking sharp on these fast-paced courts. And I do think if you're looking at a guy who can't break Hichikata in 3 sets, I don't want to lay 160. I think Kovacevic, who made 2 separate ATP finals last year on hard court, is dangerous. I think he can win, and I do think he has a decent blend of serving and rallying. And we know that once again, Perricard can't rally to save his life. I see a close match. Do I think Perricard is going to lose? I'm going to say yes. If he wins, would I be shocked? Of course not. I mean, the guy's an absolute serve bot, but I think for the value alone, minus 160 just does not feel like a fair price for a guy that cannot break serve. And Kovacevic had 21 aces against Norrie. So if you're looking at what could be a break fest, I do think Kovacevic is alive to win. I think plus 130 is a good price. Give me the American in the first match for Brisbane. Moving on to the next match, you have Collignon taking on Nakashima. Nakashima is minus 155. Collignon is plus 125 for the spread. A minus 1.5 for Nakashima, plus 1.5 for Collignon, and the over-under is at 23.5. Now, for the actual matchup, both players look really good so far in the event. So starting off with the actual path here for Collignon, you have Nakashima, who beat him in Hamburg last year, but that was in a retirement, so it really doesn't count. Faced off an indoor hard court in 2024, and Nakashima did beat him in straight sets. Now, for the path so far, Collignon was able to beat Shapo in straight sets and Dimitrov in straight sets. Nakashima was able to beat Fokina and Hallis in straight sets. So both guys look good. For reference, by the way, it was 6-5 in the meeting last year before Collignon quit. That was also on clay. On hardcore in the face-off in 2024, Nakashima buried him 6-3, 6-2. Now, Collignon, we saw have a great run to end last year. He's mostly been a challenger player. Now he's finally making the, I'd say, leap that he was, I'd say, primed to show, and now he's looking pretty sharp here on the ATP Tour. But Nakashima, we know, is a great server. He looks pretty good in terms of the return game so far in this event. Will it be easy? I'm going to say no. I think it will be somewhat close, but I think Nakashima has looked objectively better up to this point. So I do think that even though Collignon was able to beat Shapo, who we know can be a head case, and Dimitrov, who has not been healthy for a while, I think Nakashima's win against Fokina is impressive, and I do think that his win in the last match against Hallis. I know Hallis isn't the best of players, but he still dominated. You kind of figure with Hallis being a pretty decent server and Nakashima not being a great returner, he might get a breaker in there, maybe one long set. That did not happen. Nakashima looked great, ended up only losing 6 games the entire match. So I like how Nakashima's played. Think he's the better server. It might go 3. It wouldn't shock me. But I do think Nakashima team total is how I'd approach this one at 12.5. It's a bit juicy, but I do understand it. I think Nakashima will probably get to 7-6 or 7-5 in there. Maybe it goes 3, but I think the team total over for Nakashima is the way I would go about it. Moving on, by the way, I see a great one disagreeing about Collignon beating Nakashima. He's definitely live. Like, I do think at the end of the day, a Collignon can find an upset. I'm not going to definitely write that off, but I do think Nakashima right now is in slightly better form. But either way, point is Nakashima, I do think, will find a way to get the job done. But if you end up taking the team total over instead, you leave yourself more open to winning despite potentially losing the match outright. So that's kind of why I like Nakashima team total over instead. Besides that, though, by the way, I see great one saying it's a Collignon. So thank you. I appreciate that. I've been pronouncing how it's been spelled for, I don't know, like 8 months, and nobody's corrected me. So thank you. I appreciate it. Collignon. Collignon. Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I also see great one mentioning Opelka had 44 aces and lost. Yes, definitely a serve bot special. No breaks in the entire match. You're looking at Matt in the comments section, who's asked if I signed up for any future events in Kenya. I did not, but I like to believe, despite not actually playing professional tennis, I would have played better than the other woman. What's you win? 3 points in the entire match? If you have not seen the highlights on that, recommend. You had a last-second fill-in for a women's future match, and she had never played the sport in her damn life. And it was as bad and funny as you might think. So if you are interested in seeing that, look it up. But once again, there was a last-second fill-in who had no clue how to play tennis, and she lost 6-0, 6-0. Very funny. Couple of clips there on the internet. Recommend checking it out. I see Sashi saying that it's pronounced a Collignon, so I'm seeing a couple of different pronunciations here. Collignon. Okay, so I'll look it up after the show, but either way, point is, I know it's not really pronounced Collignon, but I've been pronouncing how it's spelled the entire time. I just feel like it's easier that way. But once again, I'll look into how to spell it properly or how to pronounce it properly for the next episode. Anyway, moving on to the next match here. Next one on the card is going to be Korda taking on Mickelson. in an American face-off here, you have Korda minus 200. Mickelson is plus 163. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Korda, plus 2.5 for Mickelson, and the over-under is around 22.5. Now, for the path for both players, Korda was fortunate that Lehecka did get injured, but Korda was up a set already, so I'm not going to say that he got bailed out or anything. But he was also able to beat Vacherat in the first round, which was a nice win for him. Mickelson has been looking pretty good, beat Duckworth in 3, and ended up beating Tien in a straight set. So point is, he's been looking better, and the serve looks a lot better for Mickelson, which has been my main issue for a guy that tall. And I think he should be serving better more frequently. Looks like he worked on it during the offseason. It's gone better. Now, they've never faced off in the head-to-head. Korda, we know, is the more talented player. Durability is always a concern, but Korda, I think we all know, is the more talented player out of the two. Having said that, is minus 200 too expensive, or is it just right? I think it's expensive. I think Mickelson has shown in the last 4 sets that he played against Duckworth and Tien, he looks very solid. He had 19 aces against Duckworth. We know Duckworth is a guy who's not very good, but Mickelson did not get broken in the entire match. 19 aces, though, is a lot for Mickelson standards. And against Tien, who we know is a good returner, he ended up having 4 aces. He won 82% of his first serve points. Mickelson has not been broken in the entire event. So the serve has been there. Now, I think Korda will break him at least one time, but I do think for the sake of value, I don't see much on Korda. I think the value is on Mickelson, actually. We know Korda is a guy who's still a bit of a head case, who can definitely fall apart at various points in time. Mickelson, I think, is alive to win this, actually. I think minus 200 is a bit expensive. I think it might go 3 sets. Mickelson, though, for a guy who had some serious serving concerns, which I've raised for years, I do like what I've seen. It looks like he's actually put the work in to add a little bit more danger to his serves for the opposition. And I do think that's going to work out to his benefit here. I am going to go with Mickelson. Go with the dog for the money. I think that plus 163 is a good price. Korda might win. I get it, but we've also seen Korda lose matches in the past to inferior opponents. Mickelson, though, is kind of, once again, underrated at this point. Mickelson's a guy who I was really never viewing as a serious threat for the last year or two until he figured out how to serve. And recently, he's been serving pretty well. So, once again, that's a big deal, and I'd say I've noticed and acknowledged it. So give me Mickelson to get the job done this upset here at around plus 163. Moving on to the most lopsided favorite in Brisbane, you have Medvedev, who's taking on Micic. Medvedev's minus 530. Micic's around plus 380. For the spread, I see minus 4.5 for Medvedev, and I see plus 4.5 for Micic, and the over-under is at 21.5. Now, Medvedev in straight sets is around minus 170. He's been amazing. Ended up beating Tiafoe in straight sets and beat Fucsovics in straight sets. 2 guys who can be very tricky on hard courts. We know that when healthy, Fucsovics won a title last year. So we know that both of those opponents are not exactly pushovers. And Medvedev absolutely buried both of them. So he looks really good right now. For Micic, I like him as a player. Now, he was able to outlast Opelka. Opelka had 3 match points, but still, point is a win's a win. And anytime you face off against a serve bot who beat Djokovic on these courts last year, nice win for Micic. But he's still a lucky loser. Did lose in qualifying to the likes of Hallis. And then he was able to beat Altmaier in straight sets and beat Opelka in 3. Look, simply put, I think Micic's solid. I like the variety. I think he's a talented player. The problem is he's really a baseline-only guy, and when your matchup is against a guy who thrives from the baseline like Medvedev, I don't really know how you're supposed to win. I think Medvedev is a bad matchup for Micic. I think Micic will have to sprinkle in some drop shots, hope for the best, but he doesn't have the firepower to really bully Medvedev around the court, and if that's the case, I just see the Russian brick wall just eventually stonewalling this guy, and I think he wins in straight sets. So I like Micic as a player. I think he's underrated, but Medvedev looks really good. He might win the entire event, but either way, Medvedev, I think, is going to win comfortably in this one. It wouldn't shock me if it turned into like a 6-4, 6-2 type match, but I see it being pretty lopsided. I'll go for Medvedev in straight sets in this one. Moving on to Hong Kong. So for this one, for the first match, you have Musetti taking on the home country guy of Wang. Now, Musetti's minus 385. I have Wang at around plus 300. For the spread, I see around 4.5. 4.5, though, plus money for Musetti at around plus 115. For Wang, plus 4.5 around minus 150. For the over-under, I see 21.5 games. Now, both players had a pretty similar script to their last match because Musetti ended up losing the first set to Echeverry, and he came back and he won. As for Wang, he got buried in the first set by Diallo and then ended up winning the next two sets 7-5. So both guys did not look great early into their last match, but Musetti's definitely the better player. I do think you're looking at a spot. By the way, I see Parasiva, the Ukraine is weak. I believe that is a Seinfeld reference, so I appreciate the Seinfeld reference there. Speaking of which, I've not played a game of Risk in a long time, but yes, I get the reference if you're referring to Kramer and Newman playing Risk. So I get the reference. But either way, point is moving on to Hong Kong. Look, I think Musetti's going to win. The thing is, do I think Wang can win a set? I think it's possible, but they also played 2 years ago in this event, this exact event, and Musetti won 6-4, 7-5. Now, Wang's gotten better because that was 2 years ago, so I have to at least point that out. But Musetti also got better during that span. So I think 4.5 games is a lot. Like, I don't really want to lay 148, but I understand if you want to. I think Musetti wins, but I don't really see much value. The first meeting did end up landing 22, so I don't mind the over. The problem is, though, Musetti and Wang are both not amazing servers, so you might end up seeing a lopsided set, but Wang did have 2 separate 7-5s against Diallo, couple of breaks in there, to be honest, but I don't mind the over. I think Wang will make it competitive for at least one set, and we know Musetti, with the one-handed backhand, is extremely dangerous, but the unforced error count can also get up there. So there is a chance Wang can maybe even steal a set if Musetti is erratic like he was in the first set against Echeverry. Give me the over 21.5 games for this one. Moving on to the next match, you have Rublev against Borges. Now, Rublev's minus 220, Borges around plus 175. For the game spread, minus 2.5 for Rublev, plus 2.5 for Borges, and the over-unders at 22.5 games. Now, we saw Borges look good against Cilic. Rublev had a really bad first set against Yibing, and then he flipped the script and remembered that he was a former champion at this event, and he rolled as he ended up really just destroying Yibing. He went God mode. I mean, Yibing wasn't playing badly, but Rublev lost 3 games in the last 2 sets combined. It was very impressive. But either way, Rublev is 2-0 lifetime against Borges, 4-0 in sets. So they faced off last year in Doha. Rublev won in straight sets. Faced off in Basel in 2024. Rublev won in straight sets. Borges has only forced 1 break point ever against Rublev. So the return game has not been very good for Borges against Rublev, but we'll see if that changes here on Friday. Borges, though, beat Cilic and beat the Zoomer in straight sets, so he's looking pretty good so far in the event. Having said that, Rublev, I think, found something in those last 2 sets against Yibing, and we know that Borges is an okay player. I think he's, for lack of a better word, steady. I don't think he's amazing. I don't think he's bad. I'm kind of neutral towards him, but I do think Rublev, with the firepower that he possesses, assuming that he doesn't have a mental breakdown, which is always a big if, but I do think he's the better player by a decent margin. I do think that his power is going to really help push Borges around the court, and I do think that Rublev should find himself in a good position to win in straight sets, but I'll go for the spread. Give me the minus 2.5 here, minus 130. I think Borges, at the end of the day, is not a great server. He's fine, but I think Rublev will find a break in, I'll say, both sets, and I think he wins in straight sets. But I'll go for Rublev in this one, minus the 2.5. Moving on to the next match, which could be the match of the round. You have Shang taking on Bublik. Bublik minus 186. Shang's around plus 148. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Bublik, plus 2.5 for Shang, and the over-under is at 23.5. Now, Shang, we know, is very good when healthy. The issue, he's never healthy. So I know that, I think it was Sashi who mentioned he liked Shang to make a good run in the event, I think. And I like Shang, but he's never healthy, so I couldn't really trust him. But I will point out, Shang's been quite good in the head-to-head against Bublik. He's currently 2-1. Faced off in 3 separate meetings in 2024 in Chengdu, and Shang won in straight sets. U.S. Open, Shang won in 5, and in Indian Wells, Bublik did win in straight sets. But Shang is 2-1, and he won the last 2 meetings, but we know Bublik has flipped a switch mentally, and now he's playing like an actual motivated player. So Bublik, we know, can be very dangerous. He looked very good against Zandschulp. We'll see if that carries over into this one. For Shang, Pico Masanya and Sonego in straight sets. I think Bublik's going to win, but do I feel great about the minus 186? No, I don't. I think Shang's very talented. I think Shang has a lot of firepower on the forehand side. Bublik team total over 12.5 is like minus 165, so that is a bit expensive. I want to see if Caesars, which, a reminder, has the best prices for team totals for tennis. I want to see what they have for Bublik, because that could be an option if it's around minus 140 or so. So let me just quickly check what that team total is for Bublik. Not even listed, so I can't even take it, but I didn't mind the over. I think Shang has proven time and time again he can really frustrate Bublik, and I do think that Shang, when healthy, can definitely push Bublik around the court on a couple of occasions. So for that reason, I'll go for the over. I don't mind the over 2.5 sets. I see a close battle. I think you might end up getting a breaker in here. Tie breaks minus 113 if you want to take that route, but I do think it'll be a very close match. I think it'll be fun, but I am going to go with the over. I think Bublik wins, but once again, not easy. A very fun match on paper, and hopefully it plays out the same way on Friday. Moving on to the next match on the card for Hong Kong. So for the next one, we're going to look at the matchup, the last one on the card between Giron and Momo. So we have 2 more Americans. You have minus 200 for Giron, plus 160 for Momo. For the spread, minus 2.5 for Giron, plus 2.5 for Momo, and the over-unders at 22.5 games. Now, Giron has been looking sharp so far in the event. Giron has been, winning pretty comfortably so far. So for the path here for Giron, ended up beating De Gere in straight sets handily and beat Muller, defending champion, in straight sets. A nice win there. For Momo, I ended up going through qualifying, beat Garin, ended up beating Kipson, both of those in 3, beat Tabilo in straight sets, and beat Kashanov in an upset in straight sets. So for the head-to-head history, it has been pretty competitive, but Momo is actually 3-1 a lifetime. However, they've not faced off since 2023. First meeting was in 2017. So once again, pretty dated. I'd say nothing really immediate. They've not faced off in roughly 2.5 years, so keep that in mind. But Momo is actually 3-1 lifetime. So for the match in itself, I see it being close. I see breaks. I don't really trust either guy serving-wise. I do think 200, though, is very expensive for Giron. I think Giron's pretty good, but I think 200 feels pretty egregious when Momo just beat Tabilo, who won ATP title last year in hardcourt, and Kashanov, who we know is a solid hardcourt player as well. So I do think Momo has some value, and the head-to-head history does suggest that his style of play can frustrate Giron as well. I'll go for Momo for the plus 2.5 games here. I don't mind the money line if you want to take a flyer, but I do think that the spread feels a bit high. Momo can keep this interesting. I think that Giron, we know, is a guy who can play good tennis, but can also self-destruct at any given moment. So Giron can maybe even drop a set like 6-2. That wouldn't shock me. I've seen that before. So I don't mind Momo. I'll plus the games here. Think that he can keep this close, and I do think that win or lose, it should come down to the wire. Anyway, I see some comments in the comment section here. I see Sashi mentioning that Musetti's serving was subpar against Echeverry. The first serve wasn't great, especially early, eventually settled in, but that serve can be a concern, especially against a good returner in Wong. So keep an eye out for that, but a good point. Watching the match early, it felt like Musetti was just hitting errors all the time. He looked very, very, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it, but I want to say that he looked extremely erratic is the word I'll use. It just felt like the precision that we normally see from Musetti was not there, and we'll see if that changes over the course of the rest of the tournament. But he did look a lot sharper in that third set against Echeverry. Besides that, I see Willie stopping by. The Rublev looked good. I thought he looked fantastic in the last 2 sets. Shang and Bublik should be a lot of fun. Willie's saying you can never trust Giron because he can quit any moment. Yeah, I agree. That's exactly what I just said. Giron, we saw a bunch last year where he would randomly just no-show a set and that would sabotage a spread bet. I'll go for Momo for that reason. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the actual match previews. Time to move on into the lock and dog picks. Before we get into the lock and dog, reminder brought to you by our sponsor, which is Novig. So if you want to check out a very good prediction market for sports, check out Novig, rated number 1 in America. Check out the reduced juice they have for different markets, so make sure you get the best price. Download the app and get a nice sign-up deal with us. Get $50 when you spend just $5 if you use our code SGPN at sign-up. Is getting on the action with Novig, promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. They've been great this NFL season, especially on props. And a reminder, you can also use them for college basketball. You could use their models. The couple ways to use models: 1, build your own from scratch; 2, copy one from the leaderboard, or let Rhythm's house model give out picks for you. But if you've been curious about models and sports betting and you've never actually tried it, recommend Rhythm. Think you'll enjoy actually getting a taste of the actual platform. And a reminder, when you do sign up, you can get a nice sign-up deal with us. So if you sign up at Rhythm, use the code SGPN25 when you download the app, and you'll get a nice 25% off your first month. That's Rhythm, RATHMN, promo code SGPN25 for 25% off your first month. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tennis Game Podcast. Finished going through the preview of the quarterfinals in Brisbane and in Hong Kong. Now it's time for the lock and dog picks. For the lock, going back to Medvedev taking on Mychik. Give me Mychik team total under 9.5 games at -130. This was on DraftKings. Now, Medvedev has been absolutely cooking so far in the event. He has only lost 5 games in each of the first 2 matches. Beat Tiafoe and Fucsovics, 2 guys who are solid on hard court, handily. You could argue that Tiafoe and Fucsovics are better players than Mychik, and I'd probably agree with you. And each of them won a total of 5 games. So I think Mychik at 9.5 is a bit large. I understand the argument is that Medvedev can still find a way to punt the set if he ends up double faulting a breakaway or stuff like that, or maybe even just having a close set or 2 against Mychik, because Mychik's still talented. But Medvedev looks right now like the best player in the field by a mile. He's been rolling, and Mychik was able to barely escape against Opelka. I do think that Medvedev should look sharp. Mychik had to fight off 3 match points against Opelka, and I do think that Medvedev will keep rolling in this one. He and Medvedev to dominate, and I said before, the straight sets was like -175. So I think this is a better option to save a decent amount of change while also picking the same outcome, which is Medvedev to win in a pretty lopsided fashion. Give me Mychik team total under 9.5, -130 on DraftKings as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to go to Hong Kong. I am going to trust the head case, but I do like the actual price. Give me Rublev in straight sets at +125. Rublev is a former champion here. He looked great after starting off rusty against Yibing in the first set. He rolled. The serve was good. The forehand was immaculate. I mean, the forehand was hitting every spot he needed to, and I think Rublev is the better player than Borges. He's proven it in the head-to-head, 2-0 lifetime, 4-0 in sets, and Borges has only a forced 1 break point ever against Rublev. So I do like the actual price here at +125. I think Rublev is the better player. I think Borges has looked sharp, but we know Zoomer is not great on hard court, and Cilic just past his prime. I think Rublev will look good again against Borges. Maybe a breaker, but I do think that Borges' serve is very vulnerable, and I think Rublev should find more breakpoint chances by comparison, which is enough for me. Give me the former champion at +125 in straight sets as my dog. So once again, the lock and dog picks for the quarterfinals in Brisbane and Hong Kong. For the lock, give me Mychik team total under 9.5 games -130 against Medvedev. For the dog, give me Rublev in straight sets against Borges at +125. So wrap it up for the show. Back once again for the semis in Hong Kong and in Brisbane. A reminder, if you want to support the show, like, subscribe on YouTube, leave a rating and a review on Spotify or Apple. If you want to find me on, once again, Twitter, find me at Reichel Radio. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.